Woke Plus Live.
Welcome back to Woke Plus Live. I am the Great One, joined by T and Mr. David Gans. How are we doing today, guys?
Doing well. Excited. It's be a fun show.
Nice.
Very
Thank
excited.
you, David, for coming on. Dead and Company did their opening week at the Sphere, and I know you're one of the few people that I feel like can come and hang and talk about that with us. So how are you doing tonight, David?
I'm pretty happy. I mean, as my great friend G. Brown says, life is good as long as you don't look out the window.
There you go. There you
go. Or turn on the TV.
Right, exactly. Unbelievable. So yeah, the Dead and Company back in Vegas. I got a lot of thoughts. I listened to most of the shows. Part of the last night, the archive that's up there, the audience tape is missing a bunch. I guess the mics went out on them or something. Yeah. So the plane was missing in the do, but we're going to get into some of that. Looking at the set list, what did you guys think just as a general overview?
Well, I really enjoyed it. I thought the first set of the first evening was a little reserved, which is sort of understandable for the first gig back. But I thought they just came back from the break ready to roll, and the rest of the run was pretty spectacular. I don't, I keep close track of it, and I can't I don't write it down as they go, and even when I leave the building, it's not like, oh, that, I'm not recapping it in my mind as we go. I've just kind of I consume this music in different ways because of the nature of my job, right? But I experienced the show in real time and enjoyed the shit out of it.
Totally. I love that. That's great. And I just want to hop on what you said, and I thought the same thing. I listened to all three kind of back to back, and I thought night one was definitely a little reserved. I thought the whole show was kind of that way. It felt a little bit kind of like what we talk about with Fish on night one of the tour and stuff. It's kind of that get your feet together, right? Like get under yourself, get it figured out. Let's get back together. Obviously, they probably rehearsed, but and even being in that building again, it probably takes a bit to get used to the sound in there and the way everything is.
It had been 10 months since the six of them were together on a stage, except for probably some rehearsals. So yeah, you got to
and you're at this state-of-the-art venue, which isn't like a regular venue, right? Where so even that took a little bit. But I thought the first show was a little bit reserved, a little bit slow, a little bit wake up, let's get going, let's do it all. But I thought, boy, by the time we get into talking about night two, I thought night two was really the highlight of the weekend. I thought that night smoked. As soon as it started, I was like, whoa. This is a different tempo. This is a different sound. This is a different energy than last night. Wow. And some of that, we'll talk about it, but some of that in that second night was just some fantastic playing and probably one of the best jams in one of those certain songs that we'll get into in a bit. I'll tease it a little bit here, but probably one of the best versions of that song I've heard Dead & Co play, and one of probably my favorite version of that song of theirs now because of that jam. It's that good. But we'll get into that soon. I thought night three was a continuation of night two, but not as good as night two. I thought night two was the highlight of the opening.
Right. So set one, we got a bust out with Give Me Some Lovin'. Interesting. It was Brent Phil tune. So I thought that was a nice nod. Phil gone. They brought that out. Mayor needs more vehicles. So I'm glad that they did it. I just wish that it hadn't been the opener because they were not quite
odd opener though. I mean, it's an odd opener, of everything that you thought of them to open with or to come back with or to start a run with. That was not on the top of my list.
It might be said that they bookended the entire run with salutes to Phil because they closed the third night with Box of Rain. I don't know how much those guys think that stuff through. Actually, since Matt Bush left the tour, I don't know how exactly they derived their set lists. And I don't know that there's anybody, presenting this sort of fans historical overview type thing. I don't know. Maybe they have some total stats geek in the back who helps them decide what to play. But I have a feeling it's a little bit more like musicians thinking it through on that level rather than anybody thinking of it from our point of view. Mm-hmm. But I'm totally guessing here.
No, there has to be something said for somebody handing you a set list, though, as a musician and not having to worry about it. You're like, this is what we're going to play tonight. Cool. All I have to do is think about what I'm going to do within these confines that have been set out for me.
Yeah, and that's a perfectly valid way of making music. You know, the Grateful Dead did historically didn't make set lists, and so you know it wasn't quite the same thing that any given song they would know what was going to be coming next. But that became less. I mean, over the years, the Grateful Dead became less adventurous and less unpredictable over time.
Formulaic.
For a number
Formulaic.
of reasons. Well, yeah, there were moments when it became formulaic and predictable, and that was very disappointing to a 72 vintage Deadhead like me. But you know, also as a working musician, I totally get and I when I started touring and playing music with other Deadhead musicians around the country, I was a little bit surprised to know that some of them used set lists. And I thought, well, that's not really because I grew up following the Dead and Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen and bands like that. And we would play our own songs and our favorite cover songs, and we jam whenever we wanted to and stuff. And we never predicted ahead of time. So, but it's understandable. And they all said, well, we don't want to spend any stage time scratching our asses trying to figure out what to play next. And that's a valid approach when you're trying to make a living doing this. But I respect the fact that the guys in Dead and Company are total professionals. And Bob Weir seems to have an internal clock that's just absolutely foolproof, and he can finish stuff at curfew to the second. He's really good at that. And so the ability to improvise within a time frame is just another form of improvising within a structure, which they've been doing, you know, without the time restriction necessarily.
Right. But
Yeah,
let's
true.
pop up the second set, because I think that this is where we get into some interesting stuff there. And what I've noticed is what the set list have fallen. The last at the Sphere shows, we got like something like Brown Eye Women appeared in the second set a couple times, and I
Yeah.
really like that. Now it's fallen back to the second set. This set, I mean, it's weird. There's some weird things that go on, like Fire on the Mountain. It doesn't have the Scarlet Begonias ending in it. It did have the Mickey rap in it, and O'Teal's kind of been cut out of the mix of it. And that, I like O'Teal singing Fire. And
Well,
I
he
mean,
sang it. He sang it, but I think then they took over, like other people say, like they kind of did the roundabout, like they did with like the Weight or something. Like they all kind of like took a turn with it, and it wasn't just his. And I agree, Kev. The end of it, the fact that they do that weird like fire to like end it is so weird to me. Like you're so used to like coming back in and having the Scarlet outro that like when it wraps up like that.
They come on, man. That's one of those Grateful Dead things. We can't. I got that. Why again? To depart from the expected is part of the deal here.
Yeah, totally. And that's one of those expected, unexpected. You're like, whoa, that's so different.
They're allowed to. I had this conversation with a friend recently. It's like, you know, like I always in my bands and as a fan, I would think Scarlet into anything but Fire, man. Let's hear something different. But when they would do something like that, like I was there at Shoreline when Hornsby was in the band in '91, when they went Scarlet Begonias, and as soon as they launched into the jam, Bruce started playing these little figures out of Victim or the Crime, and he just like signaled it. Everybody got it. Nobody rushed into it. They just did this beautiful musical thing led by Bruce. Did a kick-ass Victim, and on the way out of that, same deal. Bruce led them back into the other thing. And I wanted every time, man, when they did one of those Scarlet Hell in a Bucket deals or Scarlet Begonias in a Touch
the Scarlet Touch Fire that's going to be on the new 60 box set.
When I'm jamming with people, I would say, come on, man, let's do China Cat into something else besides Rider.
Right? I was just going to say,
great for that.
like with China Rider. But I will say they have been doing that with Help Slip Frank, right? Like even when I saw them last year, they had Franklin's in the first set and then did Help Slip Eyes, which was fantastic. Like I was like, what are they going to play come out of this slip for me? And I got an Eyes and was like, well, this couldn't be any better. Like this is exactly what I wanted to hear out of that. So they did that again this weekend too. They played Franklin.
That's not the same as improvising. It's jam like that is programming choice. The end of that piece at the end of the Slipknot jam, there's a complete stop, and you go to usually Franklin Harrop. You start another song. That's not the same thing as jamming continuously from
Into
one
something
to another.
like,
Which, by the way, is one of the things that this band is ridiculously good at, because they're great listeners and great players, and they all have huge musical vocabularies in common.
yeah.
How was it?
And it shows like that ability that they have to come back into things and land things and take things into other things is like no other band on the planet ever. Like their ability to improvise into something is, Kevin and I talk about it all the time. Their reentry is unbelievable always. Like it's just phenomenal. So
Yeah,
I
other
totally
bands
agree with
do
that.
not.
As I'm looking at the list here, I remember that they did an unusual kind of a winding down kind of ending on Bertha that I'd never heard before. And that, even though it was a part of that sort of held back set, there was definitely some innovation going on. That hearing that version of Good Lovin', each one of them is kind of Bobby's mixing up. There's I think the Dead had at least 3 different arrangements of Good Lovin' over the years, and so he's been able to choose his favorite gestures from each of those and put it together into the current arrangement. And I'm always happy to hear any variations like that. I remember that Cassidy in particular had a really, really great jam, whatever the hell that was.
That was third night.
Yeah. I was going to bring that. That was a great jam. I was going to talk to Kevin about that because Kevin always likes it when things kind of break down and slow down. And we always talk about Cassidy being that vehicle that could be in the second set and lead you into a drums or something.
Cassidy often seemed rushed back in the late 80s when they did it. It feels like this Cassidy was allowed to breathe. Can I ask you about the visuals? I got to see a video of the Scarlet Begonias, and I am so in love with the back of the Mars Hotel and them getting up and changing the TVs and all. What'd you think of the new visuals they got?
I enjoyed all of the new visuals, and I enjoyed not seeing some stuff. I was glad that there was that there's more material in the repertoire, the visual repertoire. But they also took stuff and modified some of the pieces we were already familiar with and did some variations on them. This is because they can render the digital picture, anytime they need to. They can make changes in it right there from day to day. Jay Blakesberg told me about what's down there in this giant, computer server farm full of petabyte drives and shit, So they're down there hipping it up and rendering new things and creating new variations on it for us. There was one my wife thought was like, oh my God, we're in the middle of we are inside a slot machine.
Nice.
That's awesome. And I think, doing it once and coming back, and we talked about this with Kevin, I talked about this with probably what, Fish is thinking and doing and why they haven't really announced anything is when you come back, you have to improve on those things, right? And from doing it the first time, what it takes and what you can get away with and what you can do. So I was really impressed with what they came back with the graphics and changing them up and making them a little bit different now and doing some different things with them. I think it's really cool. And I think the Sphere is such a unique venue anyway, that anything I feel like you visually see is stunning, but to have a different experience now with some of these songs with different things is cool. And it obviously changes the experience.
They changed the Dead Forever clip at the end up. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, a little bit. They used a lovely quote from Phil Lesh toward the end, and I think they changed the band rehearsing in silhouette at the end upstairs at 710. I think that there's Phil's shadow is more prominent in there. I don't remember if it was that way last year, but there's definitely a couple of important salutes to Phil in there in various places. But I feel like the visuals, they're in time with the music, but they're not really connected to the music. And you can close your eyes and listen to the music, and it works just fine. Thank you very much. The visuals are fun. I have not yet opted to take a full dose out there and see how that feels, but I will eventually one of these days see what it's like. It's fun to microdose. It's fun to smoke a bunch of weed and watch that stuff, but I'm not really there for the psychedelic visual experience I enjoy the hell out of it, but I'm still there for the music
I'd be
primarily.
freaked out. I heard it's like way steep when you get up high in there. I don't know
It,
if I
it
could
is can
deal
be
with it.
vertiginous, yes.
Yes, it is a little. It is. It gets a little hairy up top and stuff. But
And
yeah,
you
I
know
hear
me
you.
in Vegas, T. I flew
Yeah,
into Vegas
exactly.
once. I've been in Vegas for 20 hours and I freaked out in the hotel in the casino because I got lost. And I'm calling T. I'm like, you got to get me out of here, man. What am
Yeah, you would not have a good time in Vegas.
Well, a
But
friend of mine just won $3,000 on a $1 roll on a one-armed bandit in some casino in Vegas.
there
So
you go.
he's having a good week.
That's
There
great.
you
Week.
go. Beautiful. I'm going to pop up this back.
I won about $20, I think, playing video poker in 3 or 4 different very short episodes.
Sure.
Gambler.
Yeah,
I was never
I know.
very good. This is the first set of the second night. We got a Lay Down Sally with Mayor
Yeah.
singing, boosting up, padding out Mayor's. I think one of the problems has always been his Mayor had a limited number of songs that he does. So, he was turning them over more. Now we're adding Lay Down Sally. Hopefully this shows up once or twice more over the run. I thought he did a fantastic job. It's right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's nice. I've never thought it was. I enjoyed it. It's not a improvisational vehicle at all. It's got a nice groove. It's a great song for a JGB show. So yeah, why not? But I'm looking for the out there stuff. I want songs that go places.
To do something. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want Cumberland, man. Cumberland was a star back in 23. Summer of 23. They were landing it out of Dark Stars, out of space. And they put it in the first set. I was like, man, that's like Clemente just shines with that.
Dude, that song, Clemente sounded so good in that song. It was incredible.
Yeah, my broadcasting partner, Gary Lambert on Tales, he's a big fan of the fact that they moved Cumberland to the second set and turned it into kind of a monster. And I agree with him. It's great. Jeff Clemente is, I tell you guys, I literally send that guy a love letter at least once a year just to tell him how much I appreciate his playing. And he is never not fucking great.
Kev knows I'm the biggest Clemente stan there is. Like Kevin, I talk about every time. I'm like, there's always at least one moment in every show where I'm like, oh my god, Jeff is shining. Like I love him so much. It's
one thing I haven't seen in a while.
His talk with Mayor.
Days between have been really wonderful over the years.
Oh my god, yes.
Kev's one
yeah,
of
the
Kev's
milestones.
favorites.
They did the milestones days between at Nissan back in 23. That was just incredible. Yeah. And a lot of people were standing around like, wow, this has been really slow for a really long time. But I mean, it was just fantastic. The patience. I think it's a lot harder to play slow than it is to play fast.
That is there's some truth to that. O'Teal told me several years ago, he said Bobby's reasoning for the tempos is that when you play faster, you play louder too. And that's a very true. I've been playing music with people for 50 years, and that's one of those things. When you play faster, you get louder. And it's one of the ways of keeping the dynamics more even or keeping the level down. And also, Bobby has said it's that you play slower, it gives the music time to develop. And once again, as a working musician, there's times when I get up on stage with people and I really go, come on, slow it down. There's nothing to do in here but just try to keep up. And I'd rather play melodically with, where the music has time to exist. Bobby's taken that. I know that a lot of people just really, really bitterly despise the slow tempos and stuff. But I think there's something to be said for it. And I think he might have taken some of those shakedowns a little too slow and occasionally take some of those, what do you call it? I feel like a stranger's a little too slow. But that's another thing. At one point, must have been during the 23 tour, one of the musicians, I forget who, and it might be talking out of school anyway, said that Bobby had kind of relented on tempos about halfway through the tour. Once he was sure that the Jay Lane thing was locking in, he let go and let the tempos come up a little bit. And that's interesting. We aren't privy to the discourse inside that band, but that's a working band, and those guys, there's a complicated, I'm sure, relationships among them because they're all giants in their own way, but some of them are also employees, and we can't know,
Right.
what their musical, how that dialogue happens, that we're not privy to. But there's something that's going on. There's an ongoing story of the collaboration that we're witnessing, but not involved in.
Yeah.
Right. It kills me that they the estimated, the way he does estimated and sings it differently, that drives me absolutely bonkers. I'm like, just sing the song right, man. Just Jack Straw, he does the same thing. He takes that whole,
Well, leaving extra bars of vamp between verses.
Yeah.
Well, again, he's giving the music room to develop.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny when you say that too, because I mean, there are certain it's a give and take, I think, with a lot of it. Like you said, some people can't stand that slower tempo, and I get that. And there's certain songs where it does sort of play more into my head of this is too slow than other songs. Some songs it definitely works, and it does give it the space, and it is nice to hear it like that, and a different version or whatever they go into, and it does give it that time to build into some of those jams, which then really get creative out of that. Other songs it's a little bit obnoxious where you're like, oh come on Bobby, just a little bit, and you're like, we're not getting there. But I do want to say though, this show right from the get, the Cold Rain and Snow, the Shakedown, that Cumberland with Clemente, that Lay Down Sally, that first 5 songs out of the gate in this one were just fantastic. I was like, oh man, this show's rolling. And then we get into the second set. And again, the Uncle John's Band, I think this is one of those songs that they play so well because of the pacing and the slowdown. And it works so well with them and the sound. It's just, it's
give
perfect.
And take with the vocals.
It's so good. But the highlight of this set and this show and this weekend, and I think of Dead and Co's career, is this St. Stephen. What Mayer did in the Stephen Jam is just phenomenal. Like, it is incredible. And you get a little bit of that Clemente Mayer playoff in there that I love so much. And I've listened to it like 6 times. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I keep replaying it. I love it so much. It's so good.
I totally agree. And that brings up something that I also observed over the course of this. Bobby, I think, was more interactive with the other guys than he has been historically. There have been times when I felt like Bob was kind of sort of stepping back a little bit to let the young guys develop their connection. And we've seen that manifested so brilliantly, particularly between Jeff and John. This season, these shows, I felt like Bobby was sort of bringing himself back in, and I saw him and John interacting musically more often than, sometimes I feel like he's just sort of withdrawn slightly. So it was great to see him more actively dialoguing with those guys.
Yeah, it is great. But
I also thought that Mickey seemed more engaged in a certain way, and that he was more aggressive and being given a little more room, and that Jay might be sort of underplaying a little bit, keeping time to let Mickey have some more. This is all so subjective.
Well, I tell you what, Jay, over the past couple years that Bobby has been doing the Wolf Brothers with the strings and playing with the orchestras, I think that's led to Jay learning a little more of, stepping back a little because of everything else filling in the space.
That's interesting.
That's a good thought though, Kel. I mean, I wonder that's true. That could have something to do with it, and that whole, and to what you were saying, like Bobby's not so much trust factor, but letting Jay trusting more with that, and Jay understanding the role more, and then being able to fill in more and let Mickey shine a little bit more.
If Bobby and Mickey decided to retire, which they never will because musicians don't retire, but the other 4, I would pay big money to go see the other 4 of them play Grateful Dead songs like a J-Rad thing. I mean,
well, sometimes Jay and Jeff have toured with John Kadlicek as Golden Gate Wingmen.
Yes.
With, what's his name? Suddenly I'm blanking on the red-haired bass player's name. But anyway, so you can see them. Actually, I got to play with Jeff Clemente once in Columbus, Ohio, when I opened for Golden Gate Wingman, and I got to jam with them. And man, getting to play with Clemente is a treat.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah. That's amazing. That's
Okay,
so fun.
let me ask you something. It says they're not listing Casey Jones as an encore, as an example in that second set there. Or did they not leave the stage while that broadcast runs?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no walk off and walk back on for that part. Yeah.
So there is no encore then in the biblical sense.
There's an encore in every functional sense because the band stops playing. They don't bother walking off the stage because they're showing a cartoon in between. And then they just pick up it's part of Jerry always sort of thought the whole ritual of leaving the stage and coming back was annoying. He didn't really, he thought, we played our set, for God's sake. Bill Graham refused to let them get away without playing encores. But
Jerry Band was good at no encore. A lot of times Jerry
just
Band
played 2 sets. We had more control in those situations. But that also tended to be. Was that true in the stadium, like arena shows and tours and stuff?
Yeah, Hampton and Cap Center and all that. When he would play the East Coast,
just 2 sets and go home.
Yeah, yep.
Jerry had
Merriweather in '89. Yeah, there's a band called the Super Suckers out of Arizona, and they do something called the patent pending fake encore. And basically, they stand there and talk about how they're going to walk off stage and go to Bad Coke with some skank or something. He discusses this whole rap and then plays another song.
Everybody plays with the rituals of these things. Very different musical subcultures have different relationships to stuff like that.
Right.
I love leaving a stage and having people applaud loud enough that I get to go back and do another song. But at my level, that's a rare enough thing that I just get to be thrilled by it, and that's okay.
Right. I think it's kind of cool though, the uniqueness of doing the video and having them stay on stage. Like that's cool because it still gives you the sense of like taking a small break before the next song. So it gives you that, but without them leaving and you standing around and cheering and waiting and then coming. It's kind of a cool way to break that ritual up. And I think I don't know, that'd be fun to see because I know Kevin and I have talked about it a lot before, even with Matt, about encores and like, are they really necessary? Like, can't you just play like the extra song in the set or like at the end? Yeah. The last song, but it's fun. And I think I like the way the sphere is though. I like the montage thing that they do and then just play right into the next song.
It's always weird when they do, like when no one cheers though and the band comes back out. Like you're in a bar or something, you're like, yeah,
good, it's over. Now we can talk. And they're coming back. Never mind.
Yeah, that bands that invent themselves a demand for an encore, that's weak stuff.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So we got the last night. Well, let's run through the last night a little bit, and then I want to get into a little bit about what you're doing because you got a lot.
I have one more remark about the March 21st, the Friday night show, was that I remember being really, really delighted with Wharf Rat. That the jam out of the bridge of Wharf Rat, the E minor jam. I remember just being really, really touched by that when they came back to singing. And that it's unusual. As I say, I don't really like track this shit in my mind. I'm just experiencing the show. So it's interesting to be forced to recall these things when going over them with you. And then I remember, oh yeah, I really like that. And I really thought Cassidy had an unusual, novel jam to it and stuff. So those there are very few things that I noticed. Generally, I just noticed the overall sort of magnificence of the show and that I had a experience without getting into the particulars.
But it's always so fun when something like that stands out, which was the case with Steven for me. Like all of a sudden that light went off and I was like, oh my God, like mark that down, like check this and then listen to the rest of the show and then go back and listen to it again and be like, okay, it does do what I thought it did. Let me like break into a little more. So it's always fun when you're just kind of listening and those moments stick out and you're like, ooh, I got to remember to like go back and listen to this again because this sounds like it could be something special. Or if I remember correctly, this was something cool. So it is cool when you find those moments like in that Wharf Rat. And I agree. I did notice that too, because I love that song and hearing them play it these days. It's again, at that pacing, it works, right? That slowdown, because that's what it is already. So it kind of works. And then you get those beautiful moments in the song. So it's a good point.
And Mayer, he's been doing this for 10 years now, and he's getting better and better at it as he goes. And new, and I've had various conversations with him. You know, my partner and I have interviewed him on the air several times over these years and had a couple of offstage interviews with him as well. And I've had a sort of an ongoing conversation with him in texts. Every once in a while, I send him a note, you know, during the run or whatever, and get a nice answer back from him. And I really feel like he's learned this stuff really, really well, and he understands not just how it works, but what it's supposed to do. And there's a he did or was it? I think it was Mayer and Bob Lefsetz had this on a podcast a couple of years ago. Just listening to him talking about how this music works. I may be confusing him with an interview I heard with Don Was, but I know from talking with Mayer that he understands how it works musically, but he's also really understands that the whole mode of presentation of this music is different from the mainstream world. These are not perfected versions of songs that you recorded in the studio. This is the real-time experience of playing music for people that are expecting a real-time experience and who have a lifetime relationship with the song you're singing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, him not coming from a Grateful Dead background, from discovering it late in life, I think did wonders for what he does. And to me, he is the best custodian of electric Garcia out there. If he plays an estimated, you're transported to 77. He gets the sound right. He does an Althea. It has that crystalline go to heaven sound to it. It's, you know, acoustic, I haven't ever heard him really play Garcia acoustic, but I'd probably go with Billy as being the custodian of acoustic, Billy Strings.
Fortunately,
especially after last night with Grisman. He sat in with Grisman last night, and they did Grateful Dog, just mind-blowing. Anyway, I digress.
Excellent. Well, I think that can also be said of you know, Jay Lane and Jeff Comenti were Ears World because they weren't deadheads. They came to him as qualified musicians. He specifically didn't want deadheads because he didn't want, you know, there's a dogma in that world. And when you're playing music, you're playing this brand of music, there are guys that just want to, you know, sound like the other guy. And then there's people that want to tell the story in their own voice. Right. And I think the reason this whole thing exists 10 years down the line is that John Mayer had the commercial and cultural heft to get up there on stage with those guys and not have it be some kind of, oh, who's the latest one here, right?
Like Further or something was.
Well, that is, you know, I'm not dissing.
No, I'm not disparaging anything. I'm just saying, yeah.
But yeah, you know, having a guy who had an entire, you know, a huge existence in the real music business walk into this, it gave the Grateful Dead thing a certain legitimacy, which we over here at this corner of it tend to go, well, you know, welcome aboard. Right. Where the hell you been? But for all of them, it's like, oh my God, where the hell have we been? Right? That's happening right now.
Exactly.
Totally. So, I mean, the thing about Mayer is, you know, why it works too is like he is a consummate professional musician, right? Like, I mean, like he likes, even with his pop, his, you know, influences and what he was before, he would still go into bars by himself and play a set of guitar, like jamming, you know what I mean? Like he always had that in him and the technical prowess. So for me, seeing him fit, you know, like after the Fare Thee Well and Trey did it and stuff, to see him sort of fall into that position and take over, there was that moment of like, really? But then as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, I get it. Like he does get the guitar, and listening to him over the last, what has it been, 10 years or whatever it's been, and hearing him improve on that style and become more, it's weird because become more himself, but dead himself, you know what I mean? Like acclimate into that. It's really been interesting.
He found his hippie. He found his inner hippie.
I knew nothing of John Mayer. I'd never heard a lick of his commercial product. The only thing I knew about him was a Dave Chappelle routine called White People Dancing, where he was the musician who played the hippie music. Yes. It was a great sketch. But I had never heard John until he stepped up with these guys, you know.
I knew the Daughters song because I have daughters.
But I've been listening to. We listened to his channel. Life with John Mayer is actually a really, really good music channel. He's very well curated, and he does it himself. He does a lot of intros for the songs and stuff, and he's pretty articulate and soulful. And by the way, Don Was has a 2-hour show on Saturdays called Don Was's Dinner Party. It's amazingly great music. But I've heard a lot more of Mayer's own stuff, and the problem with that kind of pop music is the subject matter is always so limited. The Americana is full of stories about death and robberies and shit, and pop music is about teenage anxiety. So he's
Your body's a wonderland.
Hit that part of his, he's kind of that the limitation is of the nature of that music, but his skill in it is ridiculous. He's great.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is the skill level has always kind of been there with him. And that's what I was saying. So like the natural fit of coming in and then like learning this culture and music is, because it all kind of goes together. So it's been fascinating, and good for him for taking it on and
I have to
digesting it.
Interject and say that last year when he lost the use of the index finger of his fretting hand, I was there in town for the shows. The last 3 of the shows that he wasn't able to, that he didn't have this going on, and he took the bandage off for the last set of the last show, but he played 3.5 sets or 2.5 sets or shows, whatever, of this music with 3 fingers on his left hand. I came home from that and tried to play it, and lasted about 30 seconds. You can't fucking do it. He must have sat there and spent a week doing nothing but this so that he could develop the dexterity to cover. And it was an amazing thing for any musician to have done. The fact that he wanted to do it, was willing to do it, and then was ultimately able to do it and to play with such amazing facility without the use of the index finger is an amazing thing.
That's crazy.
Every human being should admire him for that.
Just another notch on his belt, another legend.
Add to the legend.
Exactly. It's phenomenal.
All right, let's run through this real quick. This first set, it was cool. I love Big Railroad Blues again. John doing the Jerry cover song that's short. It's got the 90-minute solo. Sometimes that's all you really need.
And Cassidy, we already talked about Cassidy. Yeah. I thought we really covered some interesting ground in that jam there.
Yeah, that was the highlight of that first set, I thought, for sure too. And like, again,
longer than the Deal, which is crazy to me, because you think Deal is like the huge song that ends the set, but
I'm trying to remember now. There was something different about. I think maybe the Deal just didn't expand as much as it usually
didn't click, right? I don't think they were all feeling it. Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but they just kept it more. Maybe they just were trying to hit a time mark or something. I don't know.
Right.
Something. Yeah. It was also kind of, what is it? I mean, a 6-song set. It was kind of the shortest set of the run.
It all seemed a little short. It seemed like he was clocking it exactly an hour.
Exactly right. Because, I mean, set 1 of the night before was 6, but it felt longer, or felt like it had more juice in it than this one did. This one just felt kind of short and looked kind of short on paper, but it probably clocked the same, clocks the same with whatever.
Right.
But it just, it had that.
The second sets have all been 2 hours. So you're still getting your 3 hours total out of it.
Maybe that's a conscious thing that they're that they're doing the shorter, more concise warm-up sets so that they can have more time to expand. I mean, Mickey's taking up. Mickey's he was born to be in that building, man. I'm sitting there in my haptic seat thinking, oh my God, made for Mickey Hart. And I'm thinking, I'm so happy for him that he gets to do this in this room, So I think they're giving him extra time for that world too. And the drums tends to have O'Teal, so it's Mickey and Jay and O'Teal. You got to make some, let that stretch out a bit. So they might be deliberately changing the time frames to allow the second sets to be more expansive.
That's a good point, and reflects on your point earlier about not wanting to take a full dose because the drums and the space in that place. Space is always kind of, Kevin knows, wigged me out anyway, and I usually have to go find myself for a minute during space when I'm tripping anyway. So being in that place with that, I would definitely have to go like find myself a little bit somewhere.
Go in the
for that.
atrium. Go listen to music for
Because
atrium.
it's intense. It's intense not even being on a heavy dose and being in there, but like I can't even. I wouldn't. Yeah. So
This set, The Rider, really stood out to me. Felt a little ripped off on the Slipknot that it was short. The Space Stella again. I think all 3 nights out of space, doing the slow song out of space is just really a chef's kiss. And then I thought the Plain Morning Dew was brilliant. Post space is a full piece, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree. And is that a fairly recent development that they'd skip the upbeat, like, that they go directly to the ballad out of space?
So,
Because
yeah,
I like that.
I think it's been a Spear thing since they expanded it to the 2 hours. Let's throw the slow song out of space, and then we can do another slow song if we want, because I think they deal with the problem of you don't want to have too many slow songs in a set, but sometimes you want to have one for O'Teal to sing, or and that makes it difficult.
And since you mentioned his name, I wish we had gotten to hear O'Teal sing a lead on something. He didn't get much to
All
do.
the time, man.
Yeah, where the hell was that?
No, he didn't. I'm saying it's a heartbreaker when he does it. I'm just saying I love him doing that.
Yeah,
Probably my favorite Jerry ballads. So
I think we should pick at the Sphere next week. Let O'Teal sing. Let O'Teal sing.
totally. More O'Teal.
You guys realize we're way over time, right?
Oh, you're good. No, we're
yeah,
I knew we'd do this.
Well, I wanted to get into a little bit about just catching up with you because you do a live stream every day. I know you're working on a book and you have a class, right? And University of California. You want to talk about any of that?
Stanford, sorry.
Stanford.
Yes, I would love to talk about all of those things. I'm about to celebrate the 5th anniversary of my daily live streams. April of 2020 was going to be my busiest year, busiest month ever. I had 2 festival gigs and a tour. In fact, I was in hot water with my wife for how long I was going to be out of town that month. And one by one, all of those gigs dried up because of the pandemic. And I sat there thinking, Jesus, I don't want to forget to be a musician here. And people started doing online stuff. And I looked at that and I went, okay, if I wait till nobody's playing, I'll never work. So we have the technology. So I started playing a live set. I'm just going to play every day at 4:00 and keep playing and see what happens. And I started doing that on April 3rd of 2020. And I have played, I've missed a lot of shows because of travel, vacation, tours. I was ill a little bit here and there, but I've played almost every day for almost 5 years now. It has been a glorious experience. A whole bunch of people picked up on it right away. I had a couple of fans that sort of, latched onto it and became daily viewers and went out, were like recruiting other people in. So, and I still actually at this point, I still have, like 30 or 40 people watching live every day when I'm doing this. And a couple dozen of them are people that are literally there every day. It's been amazing to me. And people send me money. I play for tips. And I finally got off my ass and launched an online store so I could sell books online, because when you're not touring, you're not signing books at a merch table. So I started doing all my music stuff from home. It was the best thing I have ever done as a singer and as a guitar player. I'm just at the top of my game as a performer because I've been doing this. And then when I get to play standing up, oh my God, that's really cool. I play gigs. I play live gigs around here once in a while. My next one, I think, is April 15th at the Brisbane Inn over in Brisbane. But I play online every day. And the college, the Stanford thing, a year and a half ago, I got a call from Joel Selvin, who was the music critic at the San Francisco Chronicle for about 40 years. And he called me and said Stanford was looking for somebody to teach a class about the Grateful Dead. And Joel knew it wasn't him, so he thought I would like it. So I called this guy, told him who I was and what I had done. And they said, yeah, let's give you a try. So the one that's about to start is my third quarter doing this. I started, I think, in the winter quarter or the spring quarter of last year. It is huge fun. I've had guest speakers and had 333 students in the first iteration of the class and 255 in the second one. It all happens on Zoom, so you can do it from anywhere you are. There's a huge amount of music listening involved. And I'm not I'm a college dropout. I'm not a trained pedagogue in any way. And so all I bring to this is 50 years of experience playing this music, 50 years of experience curating this music on the radio and producing box sets and stuff, and almost 50 years of interviewing members of the Grateful Dead. So I just have a unique sort of practical experience of Grateful Dead music that the musicologists don't have. And I have the background as a journalist and a presenter of information, but I have no college, no training as a teacher. So it's basically just a guy who knows this stuff really well, bullshitting about it with other people who know it really well.
Like what plus for credit?
Right, basically.
And yeah, kind of. I mean, you get people and in fact, I have some people that are taking it for the third time because I've mixed it up each time. People wanted to take it for credit a second time. So the university said, we'll, change the syllabus a little bit. We'll change the name of it. Then people can take it again. So each version of the classes had a different title and a slightly different focus. The new one is going to be all listening sessions. I have Rob Baracco, Jeff Matson, both from Dark Star Orchestra. I have Sean O'Donnell, who's a musicology professor from New York, who's on the good old Grateful Dead cast all the time. Mm-hmm. My partner, Gary Lambert, who I've been doing these things with for the whole course of this thing. Bob Braylove is going to be one of my guest curators. And one of the nights I'm going to have Giancarlo Aquilante. He's the Stanford music professor who leads the Stanford Symphony Orchestra and writes the orchestrations for Bobby for the Wolf Bros.
I was gonna say, he's not the guy that does the Bobby.
So each of these it's going to be like a guided listening session where we pick the most interesting stretches of Grateful Dead music and we set it up and say, okay, here's who's in the band, here's what's going on. Blah, blah, I can give the historical and musical context, and I won't bore anybody with, and by the way, they're in the Mixolydian mode through bars 14 to 73. None of that bullshit whatsoever. This is Deadhead who plays this music and has talked about this music with the musicians who make it, curating this stuff for people who love this music. It is the only thing I'm even remotely qualified to teach anybody about. And it is an absolutely unique and mind-blowingly cool opportunity that Joel Selvin tossed into my lap 2 years ago. And I can't, it's another one of the ways in which I can't believe how lucky I am in this life.
So fascinating. God, class sounds amazing. This course sounds great.
It's going to be fun.
So cool.
Let me give you if anybody's interested, you can sign up for it. You can look it up. There's information about it. It's continuingstudies.stanford.edu/Grateful Dead. And there's a whole thing about
we'll put a link.
Oh, great. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. What was it? Continuing studies.
.stanford.edu. And they're so cool about it. They even let us make a t-shirt. One of my students is a t-shirt printer and another guy is like a t-shirt collector and stuff. And those guys organized this whole thing. And Stanford let us use their logo for t-shirts for the class. So it's cool. It's like this amazingly wonderful opportunity that I get to do.
That is so awesome. Real quick, Kevin, before you do it, somebody asked, David, is the Hour of Playing broadcast on YouTube, the music?
Yes. My daily live streams are on both Facebook and YouTube. My YouTube channel is D Gans, DGANS, and you can go there right now and see today's and like 5 years worth of them because they don't seem to delete them there.
Awesome.
No,
We'll put that in. We'll put a link to that in the description
So
below
I
too.
basically almost every day at 4, and when I'm going to go away, like when I was in Vegas, I put up replays for those weeks just so the regulars could, hang out if they wanted to.
He's going to be doing this in a few minutes. One more thing before you go. You still do the Deadhead Hour, right? Because that was when I was 15. That was my education 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yes, it's called the Grateful Dead Hour, and it's still broadcast. Yeah, it's on specific terrestrial radio stations. It's not a national broadcast, so you have to be in a town where it's available, and that's all at gdhour.com. And there's a station list link so you can see if it's on the air near where you are, and if it isn't, here's a little secret. You can email me and I'll put you on the list so you can download an MP3 of it every week. So if you can't get it over the air, I can still hook you up to hear it if you want to. And I'm still picking Charlie Miller. Every once in a while, he calls me up and said, "Hey, I got this thing nobody's ever heard before. I'm going to save it for you." And he'll send me some amazing thing. Like right now, that happened with a 12/21/78, just before Christmas in 78. He sends me this amazing performance that nobody's ever heard before. So I split that up into like 5 segments and play that on the weekly radio show.
There we go.
And I still do Tales from the Golden Road, of course, every Sunday on Sirius XM. That we're 17 years into that, man. That's another thing. Who the hell thought that was ever going to happen?
You're busy.
That is crazy, man. That is so cool, though. Wow.
Well, I tell you what, the door is always open here if you ever want to pop
Anytime.
back on.
Like we can talk dead. Kevin and I can talk dead forever. In fact, we do sometimes a little what we call Wook Club, and we'll re-listen to a show and then just kind of talk about that show, kind of like a book club type thing.
I'm probably not going to call you up and say, "Hey, can I be on your show again?" But if you call me up and say, "Hey, you want to be on our show again?" I'll probably say yes.
Awesome.
Well, let's make
that call.
And I lastly have to give the link for my online store and tip jar, because believe it or not, all the cool stuff that I get to do for a living barely adds up to a living and have become less lucrative over time. Music business, the radio business are all in steep decline, of course. So direct connection to me, I sell my books and autograph them before I put them in the mail. So if you're interested in my books, you can get them at perfectible.net. And I have CDs and music, lots of music for sale too, although I know nobody buys CDs anymore.
And that's perfectible.net. We'll put that link in the
we'll put all the links.
We'll put all your links down there so people can easily
I really appreciate it.
Of course, man.
So for our wonderful viewers, we're going to run a commercial for a minute, right, T? And then we're going to pop back in, just me and you. Can you handle doing the frames?
Yeah, we'll try and switch everything out. It'll be a little bit on the
David,
fly.
I will reach out to you soon. I so appreciated you. Really are a hero of mine for everything that you've done for the community.
Seriously, getting to meet you across the screen and talk to you has been like, this is a phenomenal, like being such a head for so long and actually getting to talk to somebody that you've listened to and heard about and gotten so much great information from throughout your life. This has been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be that person and sort of spreading this stuff around. The mission accomplished, man. My mission was to turn people onto this music, and look how well that has succeeded.
Look at what you've done.
So thank you guys for having me. This has been a real pleasure for me as well. I love bullshitting about this music.
It's the best, right? You could talk forever about this music. There's so much to talk about and get into. And now that we have this whole other generation of them to talk about, it's like a whole other novel to get into. It's fantastic.
I have one more thing. If you're just going to have to cut me off because
you're good. Keep going.
Say I had a great time in Las Vegas this past weekend because of Shakedown Las Vegas. I was not there as a Sirius XM broadcaster. I was there as a musician playing gigs at Shakedown Las Vegas. It's at the Tuscany Hotel, about a lovely mile walk from the venue. And I played a couple of solo sets. I sat in with wonderful bands, the Pitts Players, and a wonderful group called the Dead Gummits from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm wearing a shirt that I got on Shakedown in Las Vegas. Nice. We just had a grand time there. I just want to put in a plug for it. If you're going to Las Vegas to Sphere, you should definitely visit Shakedown Vegas. All the cool vendors are there. It's a really fun scene. And it's a lovely walk to Sphere from there, and you need the exercise.
Awesome. Shakedown Vegas. I'll have to check that out if I go. That's cool. I didn't even know about that. Right on.
You just all you have to do is just click an X and you'll pop out, and we're gonna run a commercial because T and I have something special coming up. David, we will talk soon.
David, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, man. Thank you. This was awesome.
Do me a favor, please welcome to the program Oasis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fish. Please welcome Bad Company. Please welcome the Black Crows. Welcome back Joe Cocker. Joe! We're happy to have her back here. Cyndi Lauper. Cyndi! Big Boy and Dre present Outkast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mariah Carey.
Get ready, it's Billy Idol.
Here is Chubby Checker.
Here they are, the White Stripes.
They're called Joy Division.
Kicking off with New Order.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Soundgarden.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mono.
Oh, we're there. Look at that. We're in the T spot.
Who was that guy announcing the last band? I couldn't find anybody announcing them. Like no
That was
TV
funny.
shows, nothing.
Well, wait, let's explain to everybody what we got going on here, Kev. What is it? What did we just watch?
We are starting tomorrow every day. There's going to be 3 this week, 4 next, 3 the week after.
So not
4
every
the
day.
week
It's
after.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday each week. And then next week will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because there'll be 4. But
Yes. We're taking a pro and a con side for each of the nominees. And we're picking, like, one of us is going to be the con on Fish. One of us is going to be the pro on Fish. And we're going to run through each one why they shouldn't get in. And we're hoping that everybody out there comments and roasts us and everything else.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily reflect what we believe, because I took the con on Fish, but I definitely believe they should get in. But it was just a fun thing to do, to go back and forth and kind of take each side of the stance and argue about it. And then hopefully we didn't really come up with a conclusion. We didn't end it saying this is what like they should or should not get in. We kind of leave that open-ended for you guys to leave in the comments and let us know what you think and what your arguments are for and against who should get in. And
Yeah,
why.
we don't ever say who's going to win. We just give our
We just give it to you. And this should lead us right up into the actual announcement of who's getting in.
Right.
And then from there, we can go back and have a little bit more fun
Right.
and talk some more about who gets in.
Mono will be on the 20th and voting closes the 21st. So
Right. So if we're going to sway your opinion, it's got to be
Mariah Carey, I don't think we got that far yet. We've only picked next week's for the pro or con. So I don't
Yep.
know. I mean, I'll take Mariah. I
yeah,
would
it
take
doesn't. We
Mariah.
don't really care, because again, it's not necessarily arguing who you know what I mean. Like we want to just put it out there as a debate and just sort of
Well,
talk
there's
about it.
criteria. The Rock Hall says there are criteria: album sales, cultural impact, and we focus on those things and say why someone really doesn't fit because of, not once are you going to hear me say they aren't a rock and roll band, because that's a tired argument that I'm never going to win.
Right. This is more just about sort of what we go back and like their cultural impact, like their album sales, like what matters to us. What do you think about the band? Why should they? Why shouldn't they? What are the criteria to get in? And we just kind of, had fun with it. We thought, why not? We need to talk a little bit more music. We got this giant thing happening with the band that our channel is sort of based around. So we might as well talk about them and everybody else. So yeah, it's pretty fun. So it'll start tomorrow. We'll drop the first one. And our first one is Oasis. And then the second one is Fish.
Forbin, we have a signal chat if you're interested in joining. So let's talk about this Japan thing, because at first I was like, oh, Fish are playing Japan, we got to do a microdose. And then we looked into it a little, and we've seen this website popped up last year, and then it said, oh, we're doing Mondegreen. The dates of this thing this year are like a Wednesday and a Thursday and a Sunday and a Monday. And we've heard rumors, which I don't have a second source yet, but we've heard rumors they're going to be somewhere else, because Bourbon and Beyond is the 19th. This would be like 3 days after Bourbon and Beyond.
Right, to get to Japan from there. And we already have suspicions of another venue hosting them during this time anyway, somewhere in the East. So I don't see, but I gotta say, my thing that I wanted to talk about with this, or at least point out, is I gotta appreciate these guys' commitment to the bit with this Japan thing, because it's been 2 years now, over 2 years.
This is the second year. Yeah, last year Mondegreen popped up, and then that was the end of it.
And I mean, they have the same, it's very well done. The website looks great. It's very trolly and awesome. I don't know the whole.
One of the links goes to a site in Japanese that sells tickets at the very bottom. And you know what else? Redline. What are they called? Redline management? Is that what Fish's management is called?
Yeah, I think Red Light. I think Red Light.
Red Light. They're trying to break into the Japanese market and get their bands in there. So it kind of made sense in that overall, because there had been reports in the music industry magazines about that.
Right.
Website magazines.
I mean, what they should be doing, they should look into Yabi Yabi, our favorite little Japanese band, and they should actually be opening for Fish when they go back to Japan.
J-pop.
Yes. Like, what's her name? Lalisa in The White Lotus, crossing over from Blackpink into acting.
Exactly. Did you see the thing about the Jerry Symphony at Red Rocks?
Yes,
that was
announced. I did. And I was excited about this because you can book in your Fish trip. You can start with Taper's Choice night 0, night 1, 2, 3 of Fish, and then night 4 close out your Sunday night with a nice Red Rocks symphonic. Jerry Garcia, O'Teal's going to be there. A bunch of it sounds awesome. I mean, I'll be dead and not able to walk, but
Warren did it the last 2 times. Warren was with it the last 2 times.
If I could somehow manage to walk up the flights of stairs at Red Rocks and sit my ass down at the seats there, I will go. But I think that's awesome. What a great weekend.
Red Rocks isn't fair. Not only are you in the mountains, so you have the altitude thing to deal with, they make you walk and walk and walk.
I know. The parking should all be above it, right? So you can walk down. There's only that one lot that's up there to get in from the top. Otherwise, you're walking
on top of the Lizard. I want to park on the Lizard and scale down.
Because it's not that you got to walk up like the slopes before you even get to the stairs or the ramp to go up into it. And then once you're in it, you got to walk up more. So yeah, it's a killer. And after 4 days of dancing and Fish and Taper's Choice, I don't think I'll be able to walk.
Well, the key is the third night of Fish, you sit in the sand.
Yes.
And you let your body heal for that 24-hour period.
Yeah. And you don't go big night 0 with Taper's Choice. I'll be working the merch, so I
did in Colorado that one year. Yes. I was working the merch table, and everybody who walked up was like, "You need a drink? You're behind the merch table." And I'm like, "Vodka and club soda." I drank like 12. I walked out of there. I was like, "I'm king of the world," but someone else threw up when we drove home. One of our passengers ended up throwing up, and he wasn't even drinking.
But that wasn't that night, Kev. That was Gorilla Toss.
That was that night.
That was Gorilla Toss.
Oh, that was Gorilla Toss. Right.
That was the following year.
God help me. That was so good. All right, so let's do one last thing. We'll do the Neil Young minute, and we'll wrap up. Somebody released their own statement about
we should have done another microdose to follow up the other one, but we don't really need to talk too much about that band.
It was if the wording on the Goose statement was weird, the wording on the Jeff statement was even weirder. He didn't even have a bad public relations firm helping him out.
No, that was all him just sort of like firing it off. You know, when you get fired from a job or some shit and you're just pissed.
He's like, I understand why they fired me and it's cool, but it's still fucked up how they fired me.
It kind of had that little like Jerry Maguire, I'm taking my fish, who's coming with me, sort of fuck you vibe in it. And like just this whole weird...
Nino Brown, if I'm going down, you're all
going down with me, god damn it. I mean, that's what happens when you go against the organization, apparently. You don't fucking...
We're a syndicate, so just so you know.
Yeah, I'd rather be a syndicate than an organization. But again, it just adds to more of the Goose drama of the whole situation. I mean, eventually it'll go away. But
like that, if you're going to have an issue, and like King Gizzard had somebody leave the band, and there was a little note about it, and that's all anybody ever said. You know,
I mean. I don't know enough about Goose to really bitch and cry and whatever about it or complain, like whatever. But I will say that, like, I mean, he's getting Cotter in there was a bigger issue, I think, than losing your percussionist. Because again, Goose is meant, I feel like better as a 4-piece. Like I feel like this will actually help them as a band. They're not Widespread Panic. You don't need the percussionist. You don't need that.
Oh, they're
extra.
gonna it's gonna be next level until Rick breaks the band up to be the Rick band or whatever his thing is gonna be.
Until he takes Mayor's spot with Dead & Co.
Right. Well, even if the rest of the band stays the same, I think within 5 years it won't be called Goose anymore. It'll be called something else. Because from that note that Jeff wrote, he basically was like, I couldn't write, my songs weren't getting played. He did the whole litany laundry list of stuff. But I see it. It's Rick's thing. He's like, I write the songs. This is how we're going to do it. Peter, you can bring in a couple of your old songs from your other bands if you want.
Peter and the Kids. That'll be the band.
Peter and the Rabbits. All right. Are we going to do this Neil Young minute and wrap up?
Neil Young minute. Neil Young minute.
All right. Last month, Neil Young announced a world tour with his new band, Chrome Hearts. And shortly after, he said they would be doing a free show in Ukraine as well. Today, he canceled it. Our concert in Ukraine is canceled. We had a good venue close to a shelter, but the changing situation on the ground was too much. I could not in good conscience take my crew and my instruments into the area. My apologies to all. Ukraine is a great country, good leader. Rah, rah, rah.
It's funny that it's like, again, a statement, right? Like, I don't want to take my crew, but I would think like the crew, the audience, the everything about it.
Right, you want the audience, you like my guitar.
My guitar, my instruments, a few people in my band I'm worried about, whatever.
I got this vintage Les Paul that just...
You're like, damn, man, like that's what happens when you play a war zone. I don't know. I get it. I get like the whole announcement was kind of crazy, but yes, with the state of the world and the state of everything, I think it's probably the wisest move. But man, what a rebel that would have been to put on a show there and do it. And I mean, if you do get bombed or whatever, international incident, like what better way to go out? We always talk about dying on stage. Boom, like fuck Putin, right? Like that's, you don't get any bigger than that. But I get it. I totally. Neil, do your thing. I think
do your thing. More power to you, buddy.
It's safer being safe. So yeah.
What time are you dropping that tomorrow? The Oasis.
We're gonna set it up to drop early on the early on the West Coast and morning time for the East Coast. We'll upload it tonight and set the schedule so it'll be ready to roll first thing tomorrow for you. And then same thing Thursday, Friday and Saturday with the next two. Fish is on Friday and Bad Company. Saturday's Bad Company.
I did them in order. If you go back and watch that ad, they're in the order they're going to come.
Oh, in the order that they're in. So there you go. The ad has them in the order. So Oasis tomorrow, Fish Friday, Bad Company Saturday, and then next week will be 4 more, and we'll promo it on the Wednesday night show. So
get the Fish Friday thing. See how that worked
Fish
out?
Friday. So Kev, what else? Any other housekeeping we need to go through here?
Make sure that you like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you want to become a member, we're ramping that back up. We dropped a little thing. I came from Planet Wook today. If you're a member, go over and check that out. We're going to be doing the Set Break Hangs come tour. Tim, word on the street is Tim will be back. So
the return of Tim is happening. Tim 2.0 Weekend Wook 2.0 will come back refreshed.
Right, find the Discord. The link's down there. We're going to add all the David Gans links. That was so cool. He came on. And
that was really fun.
Join the Discord. We have fun over there. There's a whole group of people who aren't on Blue Sky, who aren't on Facebook. So, and you might recognize some of the names.
It was. And Jason, I'm hitting Hollywood Bowl for sure. Probably Seattle. And I'll do Night Zero, Taper's Choice, obviously, before the bowl show. So you can hit me up at any of those. I will be there. And then, we'll try and get a Wook Club on the books here eventually too, Kev. Another Dead show that we want to do. Hopefully in the next week or so, we'll get that on the books. We'll definitely
I had a suggestion for you, actually. If you'd be interested. Doing a Wook Club on another band.
It depends on the band.
Chicago, Tanglewood 1970. I don't think you've ever seen it. There's a video. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. So it isn't that big of a buy-in. Fantastic. I think we would have so much to talk about in relation to tray and horns and things like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey, we can change it up. I mean, why not? There's no rules. I would rather do another 76 Dead because I'm really in the 76 Dead right now and 76 Jerry, but I'm more than willing to do whatever. That's fun.
Yeah. Take it up. Maybe we'll do that next week. Maybe we can get it in like April. It'll be April next week. Maybe that'll be like our one for the month.
Yeah. And I mean, I was gonna say we got some other things coming down eventually soon too. So it's exciting. We'll start doing some more member hangs. I know we've been sort of bad with hanging with the members during the week, but hopefully we'll get back to doing that once a week with you guys, like privately, just hanging out. So yeah, hopefully maybe Friday this week we'll do a member hang at like lunch for everybody and hang out and discuss some stuff. But join the Discord. We like to have conversations in there as well. And I think that's about it, right, Kev? We cover everything.
I'm gonna play you off. We'll see you guys
Ways
soon.
up. Thanks, guys. See ya. David Gans, man, that was awesome. That was so fun.
But it was last minute, and he still came on. I asked him like 2 or 3 days ago. It wasn't like I planned it. I just like that guy knows, and he was there.
That's awesome. And like, I mean, we could talk hours with it. It's just like having Matt on, so you can talk hours with anybody with the dead.
Right.
And
We had
meeting him.
we had to follow up on the microphone, and we needed a Neil Young minute. But
Yeah, of course.
it is.
There he is. MC Roach.